Let's talk about how to plan and budget if your income is seasonal. Some of us live very seasonal lives. If you are a major YouTuber, you might see that your AdSense peak twice a year. Or if you're in e-commerce, you might think that most of your sales come at the end of the year, and you're right. Or if you're a freelancer, maybe you win a big project and then you work on it for 3 months and then you have to go out and find your next project. Either way, you have a seasonal income. And in today's video, I want to talk about what you can do with that seasonal income. How do you add some predictability? How do you make sure that you don't run out of money, etc.? So let's talk about it. This video is brought to you by Email 10K. Learn how to book meetings with billion-dollar brands and take your company to the next level at email10k.com. In some of our businesses, we have very predictable incomes, and in others, it is still seasonal. Our marketing agency, for instance, sees a lot of clients right before the end of the year because people are trying to blow through their Q4 budget before the beginning of Q1. So December and the rest of the year's budget maxes out before the new budget starts. So you'll see a lot of clients sign right at the end of the year. You'll also see a lot of clients start right at the beginning of the year because they just get their budget approved. So what that means is there are segments of the year where you make a bunch of money. So that is seasonality, and then other segments of the year where you barely make any money. So here's what I do, and you can either use this or not. The first thing I do to make sure I don't run out of money, even though our income is seasonal, is decide how much you need for the month. And the amount's usually lower than you think it is. Let's say you make 50K all in. I'm not saying spend 50K in a month. I'm saying figure out what you will spend or what you need to spend and then go from there. I lived for years off of $3,000 a month and even more time off of $4,500 a month. You don't really need that much cash. You don't need a Lamborghini or whatever, but even with a Lamborghini, you can live off 6K a month, no problem. If you're single and you don't have kids, I guess when you start having kids or your wife wants to, or husband or whoever wants to spend more money or whatever, like I can see that being an issue. But as long as you're single, you have full control over your finances, you don't have kids, you don't need to be spending that much. Save it for when you do have a wife or husband or kids or whatever. You can spend all your money on them, right? Save it up. What do you need that money for right now? Trying to look cool? What do you need Yeezys for, man? Who are you trying to look cool for? You don't need that to look cool. All that was a very roundabout way of saying figure out how much you actually need for a month. And in America, you can get by on $3,000 to $4,500 easy. In other countries, it could be $1,000 a month, $1,200 a month, or even less, $400 or $500 a month in some countries. So that's the first thing. Figure out what you need and make sure to include taxes in that amount. And that means at least 25% in a separate account that you don't touch. So if you want to live off $4,500, you need to be making $6,000 a month. And that little chunk, that 25%, is money that you don't spend. You have to send that to the IRS. And it just has to happen. I know it sucks to give away 25% of your income, but it is worse to not pay the IRS because they will come after you. They'll send you angry letters. They will try to take your property and your things, and they have the legal right to do that. So it's better in the long run to just pay your taxes than it is to avoid paying your taxes and try to scam the government. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. So just save for taxes. Can't stress that enough. If you're trying to live off 4.5K, just try to make 6K. That's all I gotta say. 25% in this account, save it for taxes. So once you've determined how much you need, the second thing to do is give yourself a salary. It should be high enough that you're good on money, but not crazy high that you stress about it every month. So for instance, if you make 50K and pay yourself $10,000 a month, then that will, in theory, last 5 months. But if you only pay yourself $5,000 a month, then you could make that last almost an entire year. And you won't stress about money for 10 months after landing one contract. Think about how cool that is. And that doesn't mean you can't go out and land another contract, but imagine being set for the entire year off of one contract. That is a dream come true. Now, if your cost of living was a little lower and you could sell one contract, let's say in January, and be good until September or October, all of that stress, all the current money worries that you feel would be gone, and you can now channel all of that energy into growing your business and getting more contracts. That is how you can change your life in 1 year. So give yourself a salary. I like to hover around $4,500 a month, which is $6,000 a month in cash, or $4,500 a month and $3,000 in living expenses. Either way, either live off 3K or live off 4,500, and you can make that work in basically any area of the country. And if you're in a high cost of living area, just move, who cares? Just get out of there. So $4,500 is good because it's basically enough to afford anything. You can go out to restaurants and not care about the price. You can get a car. You can have a nice house depending on where you are in the country, or a nice apartment depending on where you are in the country. And that's that. So $6K a month before taxes is what you would aim for. Whatever the goal is, pay yourself that each month. You are now your boss. That is now your salary. If you make $50K, you didn't make $50K. You make $6K a month. That's it. So do not think about that $50K as yours. That's the company's money. You are making $6K a month, and that's your salary. And if you want to raise, you got to fight for that raise. Get your revenue up. And I used to have such an issue with this, which is spending money from that big pool of money or dipping into that. And psychologically, the only easy thing to do here is to hide it. Put it in a bank account you almost never check. That's the only thing that I could do, because otherwise you will start grabbing money and you just can't. That is not your money. That's business money, or even if it's your personal savings, that's, the investment fund. That's not your personal money. So it's just psychologically, you need to separate your salary from all the other money that you have. The third thing that you want to do is, if you make over that yearly amount, so you're regularly making more than your salary, the bonuses should go into an investment pool. And the goal of this investment account is you want to get to your monthly salary with passive income. So if you're trying to live off $6,000 a month, then you need $6,000 a month in passive income, either from stocks or from index funds or from real estate. My favorite is real estate. If you invest $1 million, right, you should be able to get about $10,000 a month in passive income, and you'll be good to go. So that's the goal right away, is $600 to $1 million in cash in that investment fund. And before you hit that, don't spend on so much extravagant stuff, and use that, right? If you really want to spend on some vacation, then you can set a monetary goal. You'll say, hey, if we close $300,000 in the next 30 days, I'll go to Tahiti, Fiji, I'll go to some island. But if you don't, you can't go. So you can use that as a motivator, but make sure that you're saving enough to invest it in the right way that will match your current income as passive income, because then you're truly free. It might take 3-4 years, it might take 10 years, but if it's taking too long, you got to push yourself harder, is all I'm saying. Something's wrong, and just keep going. Typically, an entrepreneur might take 10 to 12 years to get rich from the day that they're starting. So if you're here and you're like, I want to start a business, then you might not be rich for another 10 years. But that time's going to pass either way. So commit now and do it. And if you've been at it for 3-4 years, then you're good to go. You're 6 years off. Learn from your mistakes and keep moving, and you'll get there. So until you can afford to buy a building, put that in a high yield savings account. I like Capital One 360. They have a pretty good savings rate, but you can also just search on Google high yield savings account and find one that has no fees. And my favorite investment for passive income is multifamily real estate. Try to find something with 4 or 5 units that is in a brand name city, but is still very cheap. So somewhere like Cincinnati or St. Louis, or even Wichita, Kansas City, like some city that you have heard about, but is not the city right now. Like, don't invest in Portland because you're not gonna get a good return on your money. Maybe I'll do a whole video on this at some point. So that's that. Here's how to plan and budget if your income is seasonal. You wanna decide how much you need for the month, give yourself a salary and save the rest for taxes. And if you make over the yearly amount, everything else goes into your investment fund. This video is brought to you by Email 10K. So you don't have a business idea, huh? Do you want to know what the best business to start is, regardless of market conditions? Check out the free presentation at email10k.com. We have over 200 students that are crushing it using this business strategy, even during this time. So check that out, email10k.com. And that's that. Smash that like button to encourage this type of content. Subscribe for more videos like this if you want to grow your business, if you want to improve your life. Stick around. We got tons of video content also in the past you can watch. And let me know down below, what'd you learn from this video? Let's get a conversation going. Thanks for watching. I'm Alex Berman.